All right, here we are, 2003, Jay Cutler, making my second training video, lifestyle, the real truth behind, I guess you want to call me the 2003 Arnold Classic champion. I am the 2001 Mr. Olympia runner-up, 2002 Arnold Classic champ, 2003 Pro Ironman champ, and also 2003 San Francisco champ. Of course, the next title I'm trying to accomplish is Mr. Olympia 2003, which is in October of this year. Here we are in mid-April, shooting my new video, Jay Cutler, a cut above and beyond, new and improved. So we're in Las Vegas right now. This is my home that I built with my beautiful wife here, Carrie, and of course my two dogs, which Scrap's laying here with me. That was in my previous video, the cut above, and also my new Airedale Terrier who's biting himself on the floor here. That's Trace. He's about a year old. So we built this home about 8 months ago in Las Vegas, Nevada. We were in California for 3 years, previously from Massachusetts originally, both of us. What this video is based on is showing me in rest and recovery mode after the spring shows, which, of course, my training is still very intense, moderately heavy, but my body still is in a recovery period, so I'm not going to total extreme like I would be if I was preparing for the show. Usually 3 weeks before the show is when I shot my last video. My training is a little more relaxed, and I'm actually a little more personable, which I think is also good for a video. And of course, my last video, A Cut Above, which is still available on my website at www.jaycutler.com, filmed back in 1999 in preparation for the Olympia that year. That was done 3 weeks before the show, so I want to get a few different visuals out there of myself in different modes. And now you're seeing, about 5 weeks after contest time, where I'm still on pretty much a strict regimen, but not as strict, but basically working into an off-season mode. What I do basically now is continue with what I would do for a contest, as far as trying to weigh my foods and count calories, which I do year-round. Keep a training schedule which allows me to train at least 5 days a week, hitting each body part once every 5 to 7 days. So right now I'm guest posing basically every weekend. I'm booked every single weekend until August, which I cut and gives me 12 weeks to prepare fully for the Mr. Olympia contest and not have to travel at that time. So I'm training right now once or twice a day, depending on what body parts I'm training. I'm doing different grouping of body parts, basically going by instinct this time. This off season is a little different from the others where I had a set schedule. I trained 2 days on, 1 day off. Right now I'm trying to train 4 days in a row, and I'm saving a full day for the larger body parts, such as back and legs, which I only do on those once a day. I train once, and then on the other days where I'm doing lighter body parts, such as biceps, triceps, those kind of parts, I'm training twice. So right now my time is very limited because, of course, after the shows are the busiest times of the year. All the publicity is coming out for the show. I'm getting a million phone calls. I'm still doing interviews. Of course, leading up to, I think, what is going to be the biggest Mr. Olympia ever. All my exposure is coming out, so I'm getting bookings, and my mail order at my website is very, very busy. So it's keeping my wife and myself running around to post office, bank, and still trying to balance out, of course, my foods and training and heading out of town every Friday to Sunday doing guest appearances. And, that's the life of a professional bodybuilder that's on top. I mean, I worked my way to get to this point, and sometimes it's taxing to travel every single weekend. And I feel very overwhelmed this week, especially, trying to fit in other things such as doing this training video, and that's, that's how I feel right now. Hold on, we gotta get this phone call. Never ends. My foods right now, I'm basically shooting for 10 meals a day, sometimes 12. I mean, like I said, it's time to pack on the weight. So right now I'm sitting at a little over 280. I competed at close to 260. So my goal is to get up to about 310, 315 pounds before I start pulling it down to my body weight for the Olympia, which I hope to be around 270. So right now my meals basically consist of eating basically almost every hour, hour and a half. And what I do is basically get up in the morning. I usually walk the dogs. Some days, at least 3-4 days a week, I'm doing cardio. I do a half hour before I eat, even now in the off season, just for cardiovascular condition. And meal one is basically 12 eggs, 2 whole eggs, a bagel dry, 1 cup of oatmeal with a tablespoon of honey, 1 banana, and 4 rice cakes basically, and then a cup of coffee and about 2 or 3 glasses of Crystal Light. And then usually I'll shower, answer a couple emails, head to the gym about an hour after that for my first training session, train for about an hour, hour and a half between drive time and training. Come home, I usually have a serving of protein powder, which mixed with usually 16 ounces of Gatorade. I usually have 2 packets of sugar oatmeal with 2 tablespoons of honey, usually 5 rice cakes with that, a fat-free muffin, bran muffin, and maybe I'll have some sort of fruit like raisins or banana, something of that sort. So basically try to shoot for about 200 carbs for that meal, and the first meal is about 200 carbs also. I'm really keeping track of my carbohydrates, try to eat about 1,000 a day. So then usually I try to answer a couple emails, take care of a couple phone calls. I nap for about 45 minutes to an hour. I get up, I have about 6 ounces of pasta with about 6 ounces of red meat. And then my next meal, an hour or two after that, is usually like 5 ounces of chicken breast, usually 2 cups of rice with some vegetables. And then I head back to the gym, usually after that, about an hour after that. And I train for my second session for about 45 minutes. Come home and I have the same meal as I had for meal 2 with the powder and Gatorade and such, oatmeal. And then an hour after that, I have another pasta meal, which I have about 5 ounces of pasta and I have about 5 ounces of red meat, which I add red meat into my off-season regimen, which I don't do pre-contest. And then the meal after that, I usually eat out with my wife at least once a day. We usually go for some sushi, so I have about 2 or 3 rolls of sushi, different various sushi, just usually some sort of tuna or yellowtail, then some sort of vegetable roll. And then I come home after that, and we usually take care of business, whatever else we have to do. If usually get our orders ready for the next day, and answer a couple more emails, phone calls, and then continue to eat basically the same foods through the day that I ate through the day. Chicken breasts, some sort of oatmeal, egg whites. I usually have egg whites closer to bedtime with oatmeal, something more fibrous, or some vegetables. And then, of course, a protein shake before I go to bed. What I like to usually do is, because I drink so much fluids each day, I drink about 2 to 3 gallons of fluids, whether it be diet soda or Crystal Light or water or coffee. I usually get up a couple times a night, and I have usually a serving of some sort of protein powder, usually like a whey protein, or add it with some oatmeal, something like that. I usually have some oatmeal made, which I keep by my sink in my bedroom, and then just wolf that down quickly and go right back to sleep. And usually I don't have a problem sleeping because I'm known to sleep quite a bit. So that's really about it right now for the meal plan. I just shoot for, like I said, I don't count calories, but rather count, protein and carbohydrates, which right now I'm shooting for 1,000 carbs a day, and then I eat 300 to 400 grams of protein, and I'm just trying to shoot for basically 20% of my calories now are coming from fats. My fats are meaning nuts, MCT oil, egg yolks, red meat. Not necessarily tons of added fat, some olive oil in my pasta. And, we're not talking like burgers and fries and pizza, because I rarely eat that kind of thing. But, some good fats, and some, of course, saturated fats from the meats and such. But I think right now my goal is to basically work away from the contest foods, which, of course, chicken and red meat are not part of my contest regimen. Rather, eating fish and egg whites and powders basically is my pre-contest protein content. I'm trying to steer away from that and actually add some body fat, so I can definitely condition myself for the Olympia. It'll be easier to strip it off if my body's gone up in weight, and of course added body fat. So that's really about it. Yeah, I mean the supplements I use or recommend to use is basically first a quality protein powder or meal replacement. Glutamine is very, very beneficial for recovery and also boosting the immune system, which gets pretty run down with the training. Multivitamin, mineral, something on that idea. I use like a multi-pack, which is great. Has all the different vitamins in it. But the other things that I use, like, is vitamin B. I use a vitamin C. I use garlic, cranberry for my kidneys. Use milk thistle for my liver. I use folic acid. I use some sort of fish oil, evening primrose oil I like to use. And I also use some digestive enzymes, especially with the red meat meals, to help with digestion of those meals. And like I said, I do use a weight gainer. I use some ephedrine caffeine type supplement before I do my cardio, but right now I try to stay away from the ephedrine caffeine mix, so my body doesn't get real used to it. I rather use that at showtime. Right now I'm using basically L-carnitine, which I think is beneficial for helping you use fat to use for energy when you do your cardio. I use also ZMA, which is great for raising IGF-1 levels. I usually take 3 tablets of that before I go to bed, which I've noticed helps me recover and feel a little more rested when I awake in the morning. So I would definitely recommend something as such. And everyone's always looking for the perfect supplement, but honestly, if you're eating enough quality foods and you're eating enough food to recover and repair yourself from the constant training and dieting, I think you don't need as many supplements when you're getting it from the foods. So people always email me and say, what do you think is the best supplement? I say, well, you basically need a protein powder, glutamine, and some sort of multivitamin mineral, but after that you have to really go by your own feel, and some people react differently to a lot of things. And if you're eating enough food, you're benefiting the most from food, of course. The rule of thumb I have for the average training person that's actually trying to gain mass. I mean, this is the most common question I get. Is, Jay, I want to get big. I want to put on size, but I don't want to gain body fat. So I say, okay, how is your diet? And most of the time, the people aren't eating enough. They don't have an idea of what they actually need. So I basically usually tell people to follow the same guidelines as I always used, okay? Which is basically shoot for at least a gram per pound of lean body mass. So for myself, for my protein, I try to eat at least a gram per pound of lean body mass, which right now my lean body mass is probably about 270 pounds. So I shoot for at least 270 grams a day. Of course, I go higher than that when I'm trying to gain even more mass, because I don't really necessarily care about adding body fat. I'm not, right now trying to get ready for a show. So I go a little higher than that. And of course, you want to keep your fats to a minimum, so I wouldn't suggest adding any extra fat to your diet. And for carbohydrates, if you're trying to gain mass, I'd say at least two grams of carbs per pound of lean body mass. But I would honestly suggest 2.5 to 3. What I shoot for is basically 3 grams of carbs per pound of lean body mass is what I'm shooting for, at least. And I'm lucky I don't have a metabolism that's real slow, so I'm able to gain mass and not put on a ton of body fat, even though my body fat does rise from eating a lot more food. But if you follow those basic guidelines, I think it's almost impossible not to gain any weight, and you'll eventually reach your goal. Well, I found out, I ate a lot of red meat in my pre-contest regimen when I won the Nationals in 1996. I was a pretty big red meat eater, but I knew I needed to do something differently when I got into the pros and strip my body fat down even further. So what I found worked best for me, and I think it works best for everyone, it's just that everyone is scared to do it. I tend to eat a lot of fish, egg whites, and protein powder when I diet for these contests, because I think the body responds better to a low-fat diet. And of course, fish, I think, actually helps you thin the skin, and the problem is it just smells cooking it. So I usually use a Foreman grill and I cook it outside. But I just found that my body works best with low-fat dieting. I know some people think they need to eat red meat or need more fats, but I allow myself to eat more carbohydrates. I'm actually a high-carb dieter where, surprisingly, my low-carb day on a pre-contest diet, of course, you got to remember I weigh a lot, so my low carbs are about 300 grams a day, okay? I follow basically like a zigzag diet schedule where I don't have a set schedule, but I know on all my days off from training, which usually is twice a week, I only eat 300 grams of carbs on those days. Now, I have a medium day, which is between 500 and 700 grams of carbs, which is definitely a training day. And most of the days actually when I'm dieting, and then of course every fourth day of my pre-contest diet, I bump my calories way up to eating basically 1,000 carbs to 1,200 carbs a day. Okay, so this is very rare in a lot of contest diets, but this is what I do, and this is what brought me, four titles in a row right now. So what I do, my guideline basically is on my low carb day, which is the 300 day, I actually eat about 400 grams of protein, okay? So my protein's pretty high. My carbs are at 300, okay? And then my medium day, I said I eat 500 to 700 grams of carbs on that day. My protein drops down to about 300 grams of protein a day because of the added carbs. And then on my high day, which I'm eating 1,000 to 1,200 carbs, my protein comes way down to about 250, somewhere around there. And of course, on that day, I eat no fats whatsoever on the high day because, if you're eating that much carbs, you don't need any fats. Whereas I may, on the low day, eat maybe some turkey. I still don't eat the chicken or red meat. Okay, so that's my pre-contest foods. Well, I think, you can basically use what I do as a guideline, okay? You To be a great bodybuilder, I think you need to be somewhat open-minded with your training and your dieting and a set routine for yourself. I mean, if I train 4 days in a row, that necessarily doesn't mean the next person can, or, Jay Cutler diets on low fats and no red meats and this and that. That's may not be beneficial for everyone. So you need to find what works for you. Like I said, I had a different look when I won the Nationals. I was eating a red meat. I won the Nationals at 248. I mean, I competed at 260 at the recent Arnold. There's not much of a weight difference, but the overall look is different. Okay, there's a lot more maturity to the muscle. That was almost, 7 years ago when I won the, won the Nationals. So I think you kind of need to find your own route, and you need to try different things. And that's why I think I've been so successful is I've been very open-minded with my training and, most importantly, my diet. And like I said before, I think diet is, 80 to 90% of being a professional bodybuilder. And of course, you need the genetics too. I mean, you can't just get results overnight. But all these things combined, and finding the right tool that works for you is the most important thing. So, what I suggest is, off season, definitely, at least one red meat meal a day. Boneless, skinless chicken breast, some egg whites, and of course the protein powders. I think it's important to eat a variety of food. Now, carbohydrate sources, I would suggest, when I diet for the shows, my carbohydrates consist of rice cakes, plain rice cakes, white rice, a lot of vegetables, and oatmeal. That's all I usually eat. Some fruits. That's all the carbs I eat. I don't eat pasta. I don't eat breads. I don't have usually any dairy products. And, of course, no cheat meals, which I think is important too. I mean, when I diet for these shows, I diet for 16 weeks. I allow myself enough time where I'm actually still pretty lean, even 16 weeks from the contest. But I think dieting a little further out allows you time to come down slowly and not burn muscle along with the body fat that you need to lose for the show. So people always ask me, how do you maintain your size? I mean, I'll start dieting for a contest. I mean, for example, when I got second at the 2001 Olympia, I started dieting at 273 for that contest 16 weeks from the show. Come showtime, I was 267. I mean, look at the weight loss there. There's not much there. But when I diet for these shows, I seem to gain more body weight than I really almost lose. So it just shows that I'm actually putting on muscle at the same time as burning off body fat, which I think is the way it should be. I go by old school philosophy, and that's just basically hard work and hardcore dieting and staying very strict and living a Groundhog Day-like lifestyle, which I think is very important. Stability, focus, and the set routine is the only way to go to being the top in the world. And I think that's why I've eventually made it to this point. Basically, the fun time for me is when I'm not dieting for a contest, because when I'm dieting for a show, it's very, very strict lifestyle. I mean, I'm up at 5 in the morning and I'm training twice a day, and I'm basically sleeping and eating and taking care of business the rest of the day. I don't do anything else when I'm training for a contest. It's tunnel vision. There's no world, and that's it. Okay, that's how I have to be to get ready for the show. So basically, for a contest, my life ends for 4 months. So when I come off my contest diet and I'm able to actually enjoy a little bit, which is what you're seeing going on. I mean, I like to spend time riding my motorcycle. I spend most of my time, almost all my time, with my wife and my dogs. My wife and I are very close, so we like to go to movies. We like to do dinner, like I said, daily, even if it's just something small. Quality time is most important to me. We watch movies at home. We spend time with friends, and of course, my dad's moving out here at the end of the year, which is going to allow us more time to spend with him. Of course, because I miss my family. I have 3 brothers, 3 sisters back in Massachusetts. My mom's back there, and my stepdad, and of course now my dad's going to be out here some of the time, which is going to be great. And being in Las Vegas, it's to a great advantage because in California we lived near the ocean. We lived an hour from LA, and we never really took advantage of it. Although we did go down to the beach sometimes. But the constant tension you get down at the beach as a bodybuilder, it gets to be frustrating sometimes when you want to just relax. So here, it's nice to be able to go down to the Strip and have really nice dinners at the hotels and attend different shows, which I enjoy doing. And of course, we have our backyard done now, which we have a pool, and we can relax in the sun a little bit and cool off in the hot sun in Vegas. So people always ask me a lot of the time, Jay, what else do you do besides weight train and eat? I say, well, although that is most of the time, we do things outside bodybuilding when I'm not. I mean, I can't really plan weekend events because I'm gone every weekend, but we do have a life outside. But like I said, most of the time is with my family and my 2 dogs, which are my life. So I basically have a very simple life, which I like, and which allows me to be the best of what I can be in bodybuilding.